Good morning, friends. This early morning session is dedicated to class 12. We are discussing and we're revising the poem A Thing of Beauty by John Keats. Well, this poem has been taken from the first epic poem of John Keats, which is also known as poetic romance. This is actually the poem which is based on the Greek legend in which, a young shepherd in Damien, and a young shepherd and a poet in Damien who had a vision of Greek goddess Cynthia, and therefore he wanted to, search her and just wandered under the forest and the sea and went on wandering all over the forest and sea. Thus, the theme of this poem is nature, youth, and beauty. What is the theme of this poem? A Thing of Beauty. A Thing of Beauty by John Keats. The theme of this poem is nature, youth, and beauty. Well, this poem highlights the fact that beautiful things are a source of permanent joy, the eternal joy. The extent, John Keats worshipped nature. He almost, loved nature, and the extent to which he loved nature, he almost worshipped nature. And therefore, in this poem, we'll find that the poet is almost talking about the divine character of beautiful things. The first stanza describes like that: a thing of beauty is joy forever, its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us and a sleep full of sweet dream and health and quiet breathing. Yeah, the poet speaks of the permanent nature of beautiful things. He says that the sight of beautiful things provides us eternal joy, an everlasting source of joy. Beautiful sight of beautiful things provide us, eternal source of joy. Their loveliness never fades away. It keeps on increasing day by day. It keeps on increasing day by day. So the sight of an everlasting beautiful things, the memory of these sights is stored in our mind, which provides us mental peace and soothing effect to our mind, just like a quiet shady place provides us a sound sleep full of sweet dreams. In this similar way, beautiful things are a source of eternal joy. They provide us, they provide us endless joy, and they also provide us tranquility of peace, tranquility and mental peace. So, the sight of beautiful things are an eternal source of joy for human being, and whenever these sights come into our mind, the memory of these sights is stored in our mind. It remains, perpetual in our mind and gives us permanent source of joy. It takes away all the anxieties and all the worries and provides us, mental peace and tranquility. Just like a quiet shady place, provides us sound sleep with sweet dream. In the similar way, a beautiful sight is an eternal source of joy, which provides us tranquility and mental peace. Stanzas 2 suggest, therefore, on every morrow are we breathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence of the inhuman dearth of noble nature of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and over darkened ways, made for our searching. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from dark spirits. Yeah, the poet in the second stanza speaks about the wonderful qualities of beauty. When we wake up next morning, whenever we wake up next morning from the sound sleep, what happens? Whenever we wake up next morning from the sound sleep, you know, the beautiful, sights, the beautiful memories of the sweet dreams that we had in our sleep, strengthen our bond with earth. What happens when we wake up next morning? The memories of the beautiful sights that is in our mind, because we often sleep soundly and having sweet dreams. So whenever we wake up next morning, the memories of the beautiful sights, you know, bind us strongly to the earth. And how? Just tell me how it binds us more strongly to the earth. Happiness. You see now, life is full of, hopelessness, lack of noble ways, and sadness. There is no denying the fact that life is full of sadness, hopelessness, and lack of noble ways. It is there. So long as we are there on this earth, a life is always full of hopelessness, sadness, and lack of noble ways. And these are part of human life. Life is full of trials and tribulations, and loss of faith and disappointment, which result from our own deeds. All this, life is full of trials and tribulation and loss of faith and disappointment. All these are result of our own actions, our human actions. These are the result of human actions. So these actions or these things like sadness, despondence, disappointment, all harm us, and so we harm ourselves by by following unhealthy way of life, unhealthy and wicked path. How do human beings harm themselves? By following unhealthy ways of life, unhealthy and unhealthy and wicked ways of life. The human being harm himself by following unhealthy and wicked ways of life. We always follow the wicked path of life. But in spite of all this despondence and disappointment, some beautiful sights provide us eternal joy and sets away all the gloom and dark thoughts from our mind. They remove the pall of gloom and sadness from our mind and bring about a hope and optimism in our mind. So, despite all the despondence, disappointment, and tribulations and trials, the beautiful sights, some beautiful sights of beautiful things provide us, happiness, eternal joy. It takes away all the gloomy thoughts from our mind and brings out new hope and optimism. So the sight of beautiful things are wonderful, source of joy for us. The poet says in the third stanza that now he says that these beautiful things consist of the sun, the moon, the old and young trees, which provides us shade, and to sheep and all other animals, to the daffodils, the greenery surrounding them, the cool and clear stream of water, which provides respite in the heat of summer, are all these objects of beautiful things. The bushes growing up in the forest are also there. The musk roses blooming amidst them are all the eternal sources of joy. So, what are the eternal sources of joy? The sun, the moon, all the young and old trees. The musk roses growing in the forest or blooming amidst them. All are the eternal source of joy. And in the last stanza, the poet says that even those mighty ancestors, our mighty ancestors who have been dead, are also source of eternal joy, because their deeds we read and we come to know about their great achievement. They also provide us eternal happiness. So whenever we read about the mighty achievements of the ancestors, the images of the stories that people have made us and given us, their extraordinary achievements are always sources of eternal joy. Now, we can say that it is quite implicable that their heroic and mighty deeds serve as an eternal source of joy for us, and they have a sublime effect on human spirit. A beautiful thing are like an endless fountain from the heaven, sent by God himself to the mankind, and the mankind may enjoy these precious gifts. So the poet uses the image of nature as an endless fountain, you know, pouring onto us from heaven. What does the poet use? What kind of image does the poet use? The poet uses the image of nature as an endless fountain pouring onto us from heaven. So nature is an eternal source of joy. Nature is a source of eternal joy. Now some small questions first. Question number one. Question number one is that what pleasure does a beautiful thing give us? Are beautiful things worth treasuring? Yes, a beautiful thing gives us an everlasting and ever-ending pleasure. Beautiful things are worth treasuring because their memory, soothes our mind and inspires us to overcome the depressing thoughts in our mind. So, the beautiful sights of beautiful things, the memory of beautiful sights of beautiful things always help us shade away all the dark and gloomy thoughts from our mind and provides us pleasure, provides a soothing effect to our mind. They serve as an inspiration to overcome the depressing thought of mankind. Question number two. Mention two things which cause pain and suffering. There are many things that cause pain and suffering, and there's malice, jealousy, and disappointment are the biggest source of our suffering. Another one is lack of noble qualities or our unhealthy and evil ways. See, there are so many things that gives us suffering and pain, that provides us or that results into pain and suffering, like malice and disappointment are the biggest source of suffering. Another one is lack of noble ways. Human being always lack noble ways, and they always follow evil ways. They are the source of unhappiness and suffering for mankind. So long as man follows his evil ways, he is bound to suffer the pain and anxieties. But as soon as he said away these things with the help of the beautiful sights, certainly he will be happier than ever. And then the top question that has come in all India, question number two. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. That is what John Keats says in his poem. Do you think in the present time of acute stress and violence, proximity to beautiful things can lead man to everlasting happiness? Yes, discuss. A thing of beauty gives us permanent happiness. Whenever we look at beautiful things, we the sight of beautiful things provide us an everlasting source of joy. It leaves behind a lasting, everlasting impression that not only serves as a source of happiness, but it continues to give us pleasure even when they are out of sight. The beautiful sight of beautiful things, continue to give us, permanent source of joy. Even when they are out of our sight, they are no longer in our sight, then also they provide, happiness to our mind, to our, soul. They keep us giving pleasure even when they are no longer in our sight. In the present time of acute, stress and violence, the objects of beauty attain even greater significance. How and why the objects of beauty attain greater significance in the present time of acute stress and acute stress and unhappiness, acute stress and violence. The present world is a world of acute stress. Everybody is, overstressed because of the fast fast growing world of materialism, the fast growing world of materialism, the cutthroat competition. Our mind is overstressed, and our mind is filled with violence. In this, panic condition also, the sight of beautiful objects provide us an everlasting happiness. When our mind is anxious and troubled, the very sight of the beautiful things, provide us an everlasting joy. Not only to our mind, it also provides constant, relief to our, troubled mind, and sets away all the gloomy thoughts from our mind. Appreciating beautiful thing is appreciating God. when we are appreciating beautiful things of nature, we are on the other hand appreciating God. So if we really want to be close to God, the creator, we have to appreciate beauty of nature. And therefore, whenever the God has endowed with us or bestowed with us, God has bestowed with mankind the beautiful qualities, the beautiful, qualities of appreciating nature. So, whenever mankind is associated with the beauty of nature, whenever mankind is understanding the importance of beauty of nature and perceiving it in the right perception, certainly he can derive happiness and solace from them. How can we derive happiness from the beautiful sights? We have to perceive the beauty of nature. We have to perceive the sight of beautiful things in right, proximity, in right perception. Therefore, proximity to God can be a source of deriving, solace and happiness. And therefore, we can say that proximity to beautiful things is a very nice way to come close to God, the creator, who is the ultimate, omnipotent and omnipresent, omnipotent and omnipresent. Therefore, the proximity to beautiful thing is a way of coming closer to the creator, and henceforth it is an ultimate way to come to the ultimate, creator, whose power can make us completely relieved from all the sufferings and anxieties and give us happiness that will last forever. Therefore, all these sides of beautiful things are the source of eternal joy. They not only provide mental peace and tranquility, but they also bring us close to the creator, that is God. And that is why the poet rightly says that proximity to God, proximity to these beautiful things can really make us, happy and away from any anxieties. And therefore, Keats rightly says that proximity to these beautiful things brings us closer to the Creator, in whom lies the entire energy and power, who can grant us relief from all the anxieties and trouble of life. We can be free from all the anxieties and trouble of life by coming close to the Creator. And how can we come close to the Creator? By creating proximity to these beautiful things. Let us worship these beautiful sights and keep their memory in our mind forever, so that whenever we feel, any anxieties, it will help us get rid of those anxieties and bring in us new hope and optimism. And that is what is required in our life. Thank you. Have a nice day.